Someone walked into the cabin in the woods, someone picked up a rifle and a shotgun, someone looked into each face, each child, and pulled the trigger. 6 people. A family. None survived. None heard anything. June 1968. Northern Michigan is in the throes of summer. Tall pine forests hug the shores of Lake Claire, where the wind is cool on the skin, where the water is as still as glass. The Robisons, Richard, his wife Shirley, and their 4 children have decided to go to their vacation cabin, tucked deep in the woods of Greenwood Township. The cabin has no neighbors. No electricity. No telephone. No cars. Just nature in them, the perfect getaway. The perfect place to disconnect from the world. Little did they know that someone was watching them from the shadows of the woods. Little did they know that this would be their last summer, and they certainly didn't know that even in death, they would be buried in silence for decades. On July 22, 1968, nearly a month after the Robisons arrived at the cabin, a local patrolman noticed something unusual. No one in the house, lights or movement, no sound, no movement. And the cabin smelled strongly, a smell that had only one name. The smell of decomposing human flesh. When the door was broken open, sunlight poured in, and what they saw made even the most seasoned cops back away. Richard Robison's body lay slumped on the sofa. Eyes wide open. A bullet hole in his head. His wife, Shirley, had been shot and beaten to the point of disfigurement. The 3 children, Gary, 17, Randy, 12, Susan, 7, had all been shot in the head with a rifle. Richard Jr., the youngest, age 4, died of blunt force trauma, probably from a shotgun blast to the skull. This is not murder. This is execution. Excerpt from Crime Scene Investigators Report. One thing that puzzled investigators for months was how could such a horrific massacre, 6 victims, gunshots, blood, go unheard. The Robison cabin was more than half a mile from the nearest road. There were no neighbors nearby. No witnesses. No sign that the victims had had time to fight back. The killer had come in, shot each of them, and left. It was as if he knew the place, knew every habit of the family, knew how to leave without anyone noticing, and the scariest thing, he was in no hurry. He did not attack like a madman. He dealt with each person, the father, the mother, the children, with absolute coldness. Chief investigator. As news of the cabin massacre spread, America was stunned. In 1968, people were used to news of war, political assassinations, and violent crimes. But to massacre an entire family in a cabin in the woods and leave no trace? That was beyond imagination. The press called it Massacre in the Pines, America's Lost Family. People began to panic. The cabin, a symbol of peaceful vacation, now became a symbol of nightmare. Families canceled camping trips. Cabins in Michigan were abandoned. Police received hundreds of calls, but all led to dead ends. The medical examiner's report said, the Robison family was murdered around the end of June, meaning the bodies had been in the cabin for more than 27 days before they were discovered. During those 27 days, no one reported missing, no one suspected, no police came by, an entire family wiped out, and the world didn't know. This led many to ask, who could have known for sure that the family had disappeared, and that no one would find out? Only someone close to them, someone who knew their schedules, someone who knew them, could have done that. Within 48 hours of the discovery, Michigan police announced the biggest investigation of the decade. They searched for every person who had ever had contact with Richard Robison, a well-known magazine publisher, all their business partners, anyone with a spare key to the cabin, anyone who could have disappeared from radar for a month. Hundreds of hours of questioning. Thousands of pages of documents, and then, a name emerged. Someone with every motive, someone who seemed unlikely to be involved, the victim's most confidential person, a model family, and what no one saw, Richard Robison was a man admired by many. Nearly 43, he ran a small advertising and publishing company called Impressions Magazine in Southfield, Michigan, a quiet suburb of Detroit. His wife, Shirley, was a devoted mother, quiet, a lover of flowers, and reserved. They had 4 children, Richard Jr., 19, a recent graduate, planning to study design, Gary, 17, an art lover, quiet like his mother. Randy, 12, loves to explore, always running around the cabin with binoculars. Susan, 7, the youngest, keeps a diary, dreams of being a teacher. From the outside, the Robisons were the American dream, a cabin on the lake. A steady job. A comfortable home, but after their deaths, people started to look back and found out none of it was perfect. Richard didn't run things alone. The person he trusted most, even giving him full financial control when he went on vacation, was a man named Joseph Scolaro III, age 30, position, executive vice president of the company. Relationship, like a little brother, Richard once described it. Scolaro was the type of person you trusted. Sophisticated, intelligent, articulate, good at bookkeeping. But there was one thing Richard didn't know, or did know, too late. Scolaro had begun tweaking the company's financial records. As investigators dug through the records, tens of thousands of dollars disappeared. And the money was unreported, unaccounted for, and only one person knew, Scolaro. After the Robisons disappeared, no one reported them missing. No employees called the police. It wasn't until the cabin was discovered that everyone realized the family had been absent for nearly a month. And who was the one person who continued to run the company all that time? Joseph Scolaro. He signed contracts on Richard's behalf. He continued to withdraw money from the company's accounts, and strangely enough, he never called the cabin or tried to find Richard. When asked why, Scolaro replied, "I think they wanted to be left alone." He said he wanted to cut all ties for a few weeks. The police sensed something was wrong. Who would leave a company to a vice president, and then disappear without a word? And why didn't the executive wonder when his boss went missing for a month? Investigators searched the company's offices, Richard and Shirley's homes, and sealed safes. The results were chilling. $60,000 withdrawn from the company's accounts in just 3 weeks of Richard's absence. Forged checks signed in Richard's name. But the handwriting didn't match, a handwritten internal memo in which Richard wrote, "Joe is pushing the spending into the gray area. I need to talk to him. Something's not right." Date, June 22, 1968. The date was determined to be the time of the massacre, and now the police knew this was no longer a random killing. This was a cover-up, a murder plot to cover up financial misappropriation. But motive alone was not enough. The police needed physical evidence to convict, and then, 2 guns discovered in Scolaro's old files, a .22 caliber, a .25 Beretta, exactly matched the ammunition found in Robison's cabin. When questioned, Scolaro said the guns had been stolen months earlier. No one had reported them missing. No one had found them. And Scolaro could provide no evidence of a new purchase or of reporting the guns to the police. A person can lose 1 gun. But 2 at the same time, and at the same time a family was murdered with 2 of those guns? There was no coincidence. Excerpt from 1970 investigation file. Gradually, the picture became clear. Richard Robison discovered that Scolaro had embezzled money. He took notes, intending to confront him. Soon after, his family was murdered. The biggest beneficiary was the man who ran the company, and who never tried to contact them. This was more than just a murder. This was the deepest betrayal, from the most trusted person. When you kill 6 people, a whole family, and you live as if nothing happened, you're not a normal person, you're either a cold-blooded calculating man or the devil in human form. Inspector Harry Young, Michigan State Police, 1972. In early 1969, more than half a year after the massacre, the Michigan State Special Investigation Team devoted all its resources to digging into Joseph Scolaro's file. They discovered some strange details. Scolaro had purchased a .22 Beretta and a .25 Beretta in 1967, both of which matched the shell casings found at the crime scene. The two guns had gone missing just before the Robisons were murdered. Scolaro had no evidence of a purchase or replacement. No receipts. No notes. No theft reports. The police also went through pay stubs, money orders, accounting documents, and discovered that more than $60,000 had disappeared from Impressions magazine in the 6 months before the murders. Scolaro was the only person with access to and editing these accounts. It seemed that Scolaro could still avoid the evidence, until a small discovery from the assistant accountant changed the picture. An internal fax that had been partially destroyed in the shredder was recovered. It noted that Richard Robison had cancelled the contract with Scolaro on June 23, 1968. The police speculated that Richard might have confronted Scolaro about the embezzlement just before leaving town for the cabin. This created a chilling timeline. June 22, 1968, the Robisons were murdered. June 23, cancelled contract faxes appeared in the company, possibly forged by Scolaro to cover up. June 24 to 30, Scolaro continued to run the company as if nothing had happened. No one could be so calm unless they were prepared or used to lying. Chief Investigator John Atkinson, financial evidence? Yes. Motive? Clear. Opportunity? Confirmed. Type of weapon? Match, but the gun itself was missing. No gun, no fingerprints, no live witnesses, a case without physical evidence. The prosecutors were concerned, if they lost the case, Scolaro would never be able to be tried again. Under the double jeopardy rule, a person cannot be tried twice for the same crime if he has already been acquitted. And so, the case was put on hold. When he learned that he was under investigation, Joseph Scolaro began to fight back. Responded to the press, blaming jealous people in the company. Hired his own lawyer and claimed he was being witch-hunted. Filed a complaint against the police for unfounded harassment. However, the police did not give up. In 1973, they submitted an 800-page dossier to the state prosecutor, recommending first-degree murder charges against 6 people. They gave Scolaro 3 days to cooperate before an arrest warrant was issued. On March 8, 1973, just hours before he was due to be arrested, Joseph Scolaro was found dead in his Bloomfield Hills bedroom. A handgun lay next to his hand. A suicide note was neatly placed on the table. The subject line read, "I cannot live with this guilt." In the letter, Scolaro wrote, "I can't stand people thinking I could do it, but I know, in my heart, that I betrayed the only person who ever trusted me. I stole money. I lied, but I didn't kill them." The police were stunned. The public was shocked, a half-confession. A truth hanging in the balance, and with the suicide shot, the biggest clue, and the prime suspect, was dead. No gun. No clear confession, no trial. No verdict, only one final whisper, true or false, "I betrayed, but I didn't kill them." The Robisons died without justice, Joseph Scolaro died without punishment, and the case was officially closed in 1989. No one was charged, no one stood trial. Richard Jr., the eldest son, was lucky to survive the case because he was not present at the cabin. For many years, he did not speak to the media, did not appear, did not answer letters. It was only in 1997, in a rare interview, that Richard Jr. uttered a sentence that made listeners cry. They were killed as if it were nothing, and the world went on as if they had never existed. He did not return to Lake Claire. He did not inherit the cabin. He did not once look at what had been a family paradise. He lived in silence. Because every time he looked in the mirror, he saw only one thing: I was the only one who survived, but I did not save anyone. In the investigation file declassified in 2003, there was a part that had been omitted from public release for many years: the injury marks on Shirley Robison's body. The mother, she was not only shot, she was beaten, repeatedly, with a hard object on her head, face, and hands. She may have been trying to protect her children. Or perhaps the killer wanted to punish her mother personally. A dark theory was raised during the investigation. Maybe Shirley knew something about money, about fraud, or about the relationship between her husband and the vice president, and was not allowed to live to tell about it. The theory was never pursued, because the killer, if it was Scolaro, shot himself in the head before the truth could be revealed. An abandoned cabin, and the pine trees that witnessed it. After the murder, the Robisons' cabin was left empty. Locals called it the Death Lodge. No one cleaned it up. No one dared to enter. By the 1980s, local authorities had burned the cabin down to obliterate the haunting, as if that would burn away the memory. But no, the memory smoldered, never clearing the smoke. Many independent journalists later re-investigated the case and discovered strange things. The investigation file was closed unusually early. There was no retrial, despite clear financial evidence. Multiple witnesses said they saw Scolaro near the cabin during the week of the murder, but their statements were not included in the official file. And the most puzzling thing, no one, not even the Robison family, was allowed to see the full file for 20 years, a former police officer once revealed anonymously. If Scolaro had gone to trial, a lot of people in the Detroit advertising industry would have been dragged down with him. It was better to close the case and let the dead man carry the secret. Robison's case was officially closed on December 3, 1989, by the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. Reason: there was insufficient physical evidence to prosecute anyone under the standards of a criminal court. Despite the amount of money embezzled, the type of gun matched the crime scene, the suspect's indirect confession, an entire family died without a struggle. All buried in closed files. No trial. No jury. No conviction, just 6 graves. And a suicide. The 1990s passed. Then 2000. Then 2010, the Robison case gradually became a page turned too quickly in the history of American crime. No Hollywood film adaptation, no million-view podcast, just a few small-time journalists, surviving children, and the memories of retired investigators. Every year in June, I dream about that cabin. No one screams. No blood, just 6 people sitting in the living room, looking at me, saying nothing. Lieutenant Atkinson, interview in 2007. There is a theory that Joseph Scolaro did not act alone, that he was not the killer, but rather a figurehead in a larger conspiracy, possibly involving victim Richard Robison and the dark corners of Detroit's advertising industry. Some facts to support this theory: Richard had invested in an independent magazine, which was said to have upset major sponsors. There were 2 mysterious internal phone calls from Robison's company to the cabin in the 2 days before the massacre, but no one knew what they were about. Scolaro seemed too clumsy to cover it up. But the crime was extremely professionally staged. Either Scolaro had an accomplice, or someone was behind him, and he was silenced by a bullet to the head. Leaked 2004 investigative notes. Yet there was no further investigation. No one was called back. It was as if everyone had decided to let it die. Whether the theory was correct, one thing remained constant: the person suspected of killing the Robisons was the person they trusted the most. Joseph Scolaro had dinner with Richard every week, called Shirley's sister, brought birthday presents to each of the children, and when Richard brought his wife and children to the cabin, he had no idea the person who sat in his office every day that was plotting to kill them all over a few lines of accounting. It was the perfect betrayal. Beautiful on the outside, cold-blooded on the inside, the Robison massacre was more than a crime. It was a warning to all of us about who really controls your life, about the price of blind trust, and about how the truth can be buried forever if no one lives to tell it. Today, on Clare Lake, where the cabin once stood, the grass is thick, the birds sing, the wind blows, as if no blood had ever been shed. But to those who know the story, they say, on quiet nights, you can hear the gunshots echoing in the woods. It is the sound of justice that was never served. Richard Robison, 42, a father, a friend, a dreamer. Shirley Robison, 40, a gentle mother who kept every secret in her heart. Gary, 17, a boy who painted pictures of cabins in pine forests. Randy, 12, loved to observe animals through binoculars. Susan, 7, a girl who kept a diary and dreamed of becoming a teacher. Richard Jr., 4, the youngest, died from a blow to the head. Perhaps the most fearful, the least understanding, they were not just a case, they were a family that existed, and justice never came to them. But the truth is still here, waiting to be told.